The dialogue.
You spoke about misinformation as one of the challenges which we are seeing right now, and that's something which I think all of us are grappling with online, especially in times like this, Osama, when you don't have many sources of verified information. How does a user filter the kind of information he is getting on social media? What can be done from a policy standpoint to ensure that during such times of emergency, you have verified channels, you have ways of producing news which goes out in a more viral format than fake news would. So how do we close those gaps in terms of making sure that we get the right amount of information to the people, or is it like a psychological challenge that people are more prone to sharing fake news, irrespective of whether anybody is proliferating or not?
So India has a situation, and many other places who live in a disconnected world where is a community kind of situation, is that we always believe in hearsay, believe in what others saying. We also have lived in a situation where lack of confidence and trust in our cadre, or let's say panchayat or the people or whatever, because there is always been lack of information, reliable information. So that actually increases the chances of misinformation, and that's very important for us to think that why it does happen. However, we do have a channel of trustworthy information. The only thing is that, does trustworthy information reach to the people who are being affected or at a mass scale, is itself a question. And therefore, my reply and my solution into fighting misinformation is, as much as it is in the digital system, it is as much relied on human system. That means what I'm saying is that government and everybody must develop a cadre-based system of channel of information flow, where you believe that, if this person or this area, this source is coming, that means it's reliable. Any other source is not reliable, especially in a difficult situation. Like we have tested it. I mean, we all the 500, 600 locations that we work, we have trained each one of them with misinformation, how to fight fake news, how to identify fake
Right.
news and misinformation. And we try to create a situation where they are being asked or relied upon for anything which is a critical information, so that they do not get challenged. We also have tried to create a local ecosystem of having a messaging system of trustworthy people who can supply the information. We are also trying to create a situation of that, make sure that which is provided is written with a source, and create a situation where people look for a source rather than they look for the source who is forwarded them, rather than the look at the source which is actually written on the information and not fudged. So there are many things, but the bottom line is that it's very important to create a cadre system of information, and also announcement of reliable information sources. That's very, very important. Because of the lack of public announcement, it happens. And that's the reason why Supreme Court actually came out with this kind of alarming bell, that why only government should take a responsibility to, provide the information. Actually, that should not be the dictum, that only government should be relied, because there are many more agencies and channels which are much more reliable. What the dictum should be, that there should be a verification channel that should be identified. Government should play a role in creating a situation of supply.
I want to focus on a community of workers, and they're mostly the gig economy workers. And you have the drivers of Ola, Ubers, and others, and they are right now they don't have jobs, and they don't have access to income. Now, a lot of these gig economy, and the gig economy was established in the last decade or so with the proliferation of internet and platform-based economy. Now, these guys don't have, and there are no laws to protect them, and in terms of regulate their profession, and there are a lot of issues even while before lockdown, when they were working with their employers. So what can be done to secure their life for the future? What can we do from a regulatory standpoint to make sure that in the future something like this happens, we protect them and make them more resilient to change? And also in terms of immediate reactions from the government or the stakeholders, what can be done, because there's a large community which need to be sort of helped out.
So, one thing I want to say is that gig economy is never individualistic in itself. It always relied on a system that is a brick and mortar system. Driver always existed, car always existed, travel always existed. Gig economy came over that to create a situation of create an efficiency out of it, or something like that. So I would not say that suddenly gig economy will be back even without drivers being back. And drivers have lost the job because of gig economy is not working at the moment, because online system is still working. Brick and mortar system is actually not working at the moment, I would say. Many of the brick and mortar, so travel is dead, traveling is dead, transportation is dead.
I mean, there's a demand for travel right now, so they're out of job because of that.
Yeah, so certainly. So I would not say that, of course, Ola is dead because they always rely, or Ubers are dead because they relied on transportation service, which is based on drivers, and therefore, since the travel itself is totally gone, that entire company is gone. Gig economy, from that perspective, has to look at the technology that they developed and the system that they developed, and are they going to relate in other kind of situation which can bring online into the system that is relevant now. So that's the way I look at it, that gig economy, which is actually dependent on the brick and mortar economy, has to see that what are the economy that was not based on the brick and mortar can be converted into that business. But even having though diversity or the customization, there will be a huge loss. There is no doubt about it. But one of the things that I was thinking that we need to really figure it out, that how do we get data from the ground on a dynamic basis to see that what kind of world that we will be leading in the next couple of years, because of being affected because of the COVID, because many of the things we can't even imagine at the moment.
So, Osama, in the future, and I think in the next couple of 2-3 years, we're looking at a period of evolving uncertainty and hopefully things getting better on the ground. How can technology, and you've been working with a lot of startups across the country. We have a very robust startup ecosystem in India. What can be done to sort of support the growth of technology, and maybe we can rope in young entrepreneurs from IITs and get them fund their programs, fund their ideas to solve these social outcomes which will evolve, as you're talking about with the lockdown and the post-lockdown period. Like, first, preempting the outcomes, and then 2, preparing a strategy, 3, going on ground and delivering in terms of impact. And that will require a lot of thinking, policy dialogue to happen. So where do we start, and how do you think tech is going to play the role in terms of meeting some of those gaps, which I think will sort of widen with times to come?
All the relevance of technology has to be thought by the startup people or the thinking mind, is that how each and every technology or approach to technology can be seen from the decentralized perspective and from the localized perspective in an ecosystem. What would be that?
A bottom-up approach.
Bottom-up approach rather than top-down approach. At the moment, we were thinking of expansion globally, and everything. You don't become successful unless it become very, very global. But can we think of local now? Decentralized, localized, community-based, and then you apply those technology, what can bring efficiency at a local level, what can bring relevance to the local level, how it can solve the local problem. Listen, we always have health issues, we always have food issues, we will always have skilling and learning issues, we will always have communication issues, we will always have brick and mortar in terms of living and all those things. These basics will always be there. The point is that in those, how do you play a role of decentralization and a strengthening and thinking that how in local community and a localized situation, we can use various kind of technology to make our life better. That's the way I will look at it. That's a bigger framework that I'm giving.
And that's something which do you believe the government now should focus more on, at the panchayat level, at the grassroots community level, and this could be a learning lesson, maybe a blessing in disguise for us to think more from that perspective? Because I know you've been talking about it for years, and you've calls a lot, and I think it now comes back to like you could say, look, I said it, I told you so. And a lot of the truths which we believe to be truths during in terms of what we believe them are now being questioned and challenged. So I think there's something which maybe in the future we could look at.
Yes, I mean, I would say that can we create a framework which was already created by Mahatma Gandhi and many other people in Swaraj perspective, is that how do you create a local system of independent economy? So can we think of
And the role of
250,000
technology
panchayat?
over there.
And in that role of technology, and also role of technology not only to create a local community of efficiency, but also local community with the connected federalism also, so there will be a federal government, there will be a state government, but the point is that can we create a local ecosystem very, very strong in terms of governance, in terms of economy, in terms of socializing, in terms of food chain, in terms of production, and then create a local independent economic system, self-dependent economic system that we can think of.
And that is so true, because even as a dialogue, we are doing some relief work in Gurgaon, and we are seeing that there isn't a solid local to sort of bottom-up approach in terms of municipality to the district to the state. Sort of trying to work with the administration, and there's a great cooperation going on between different stakeholders from local to state level, and that establishment of the infrastructure, if it was present before, could have made huge differences. So the outcome, and we are seeing now in terms of the local and the state working together, it's phenomenal, the outcomes and the results we are sort of getting from there. So definitely there's huge value in this approach. So I think, yes.
Yeah. I mean, one last line is that, we have to think of how you should not rely on something which is far away from you to come to you. Rather than that, can you think of what is available in your neighborhood, in your local area, in your area, from health perspective, economic perspective, food perspective, field perspective, psychology perspective, services perspective, everything. Because in any case, when such disaster comes, you do that. You actually do that.
That's what you're doing right now. We are working with RWAs, with our own neighbors. So it's
absolutely. And it's a community of trust,
Right. No, absolutely. Thanks. Thanks a lot, Osama, for that discussion. One last question before we leave on a lighter note, and this is something which I've been thinking and wondering for the last 2.5 years since I met you, and we've been working. What is the reason behind that headgear of yours? I've never seen you without that headgear, and tell us what is the reason behind that headgear? Like that's a brand Osama headgear.
I don't know. I mean, that's that I've been wearing it for 10 years, not before that. So if you go into the digital archive, you will see lots of my photos without headgear. But it's I needed it because I used to get a tinkle in my head since I used to shave my head, and I used to enjoy cold air. But certainly at some point of time, because of my migraine, I started having problem. But more than that, somebody gifted a turban in Rajasthan on me, and somebody took a picture, and it looked good. So I thought that why not I start doing this. But this is also symbolically a sign of connection with the grassroots, because if you go to the grassroots, if you go to any community, there anywhere in the world, you will always see that they use something or the other to cover their head, and that becomes their local culture, local wisdom, local everything. So this is like my link and connection to the grassroots, and I feel great about being connected with my grassroots.
That sounds great. Thanks a lot, Osama, for that talk, and really appreciate you for coming in today. Thank you so much for talking at length on so many issues. I think we'd love to speak to you soon again. I think a lot of good ideas, good discussions, which we could have carried forward, but I think in the interest of time, we'll have to stop here. But thank you once again. Enjoy your.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let's make it reach as much as possible. Yeah.
Absolutely, and enjoy your lockdown period as long as it lasts, and all the best with all the great work DEF is doing. Really grateful to organizations like yours and others which are going out of sort of out of their comfort zone on the ground, taking risk, and helping people meet those challenges. So really inspiring, Osama. You've always been to us. So thank you so much once again.
Thank you very much.
And,
yeah. See you soon. Bye bye.
Bye. Thanks a lot.